Hey, it's New Thought Talk. I'm your host, Reverend Steve Walling from the Spiritual Awareness Center located in downtown Fresno, near downtown Fresno, at 1470 North Van Ness in the Tower District. Glad to see you today, and I'm glad to be here. It's a great day. Started a great day, and I expect it to continue, and I hope yours does too. So, what I thought I'd talk about today, I've talked about many different things in New Thought and in religious science, and I thought today I'd particularly talk about the Spiritual Awareness Center. We've been around since 1984. We were located in Madera for quite a few years, and about 2 years ago we moved to Fresno, and in the process of moving to Fresno, we kind of changed our format, and so it's been an interesting and enjoyable journey, and I'm going to share some of that with you today. New Thought is it's a philosophy for a way of living, and somehow it got wrapped up as a religion of sorts around the beginning of the 20th century. And you had religions like divine science and religious science and unity, Christ unity. There's been other new ones that have come since then. But all basically they are founded in what we call New Thought teachings. The New Thought teachings is not so much a religion so as it is more of a spiritual philosophy and a way of living. There are many people that have participated in New Thought centers or churches that have maintained their religious connections with wherever they came from and still oftentimes practice as whether it be a Jew or a Christian or any other particular faith, because New Thought doesn't demand an allegiance or an alliance that says you have to give up your beliefs in order to practice this philosophy as a way of life. So in making our move from Madera to Fresno, I changed the format to our Sunday service, and it's no longer done as like a church celebration. I mean, certainly we celebrate the life that we lead, and we celebrate our relationship with the divine and the things that we do and put into practice. But we don't spend so much time in the ceremony, if you will. Not that there aren't New Thought churches that do, and they serve a very, very important purpose for people that feel that they need that Sunday ceremony in order to maintain their connectedness, if you will, with their spiritual life. But because New Thought, and in particular what we call religious science or science of mind and spirit, is more focused on an active doingness in our day-to-day life experience, using the understanding of spirituality as a verb and not as a noun that describes something, but it's a doingness. And so we reformatted our Sunday lesson into basically a lesson. We have a little bit of music, we have some fellowship time, but we spend most of the time in the process of sharing information, and it's information that you can use in the week, from one week to the next, and hopefully that when the people that do come and they put it into practice, the idea is to, as you put it into practice, to really change your life. One of the catchphrases that is often associated with New Thought is change your thinking, change your life. But as you can see, there's nothing in that requires that you give up beliefs. It's changing the process of the way we think. We grow up. I heard a study was done that by the time we're talking about an average household here. I'm not talking about a household where there's an exceptional amount of issues and negativity, but in the average household, by the time a young man or a young woman reaches the age of 18, they've heard the word no something like 150,000 times. That is an awful lot. But more importantly, as they've heard that, it has embedded itself in their mind, in their consciousness. And in Science of Mind and Spirit, the focus in what we teach is understanding how the mind works as our individual mind, understanding how that mind is connected with what we call the divine mind or spirit or God. And when we understand that connectedness, then we begin to understand that this idea of a oneness, that there's just this creative force that we call God or spirit or first cause, universal intelligence, many different other names, and it is the only thing that really is, and everything that exists within it. Biblically, the description was, in the beginning there was God. Well, if in the beginning there was God and nothing else, then whatever's made has to come from God, as God expressing as whatever was made. At least that's our understanding. And having that as a foundation to start with, that means that as we look around in our life and as we look in our life experience, that this is the divine principle. This is God expressing life and expressing life as us in particular. But we don't often experience life, if you will, as if we are God expressing life through us. And so the question is why? And this is what we look at. And when we take time on Sundays and oftentimes during the week as we teach classes and stuff, that we address this issue. Because having heard no for so many times as we go through our childhood and young adulthood, it's programmed into our mind. People live their life based on what they believe about themselves, what they believe about life. You can add what their spiritual beliefs are in there also. Whether they believe that there's a divine principle or a God or whether they don't determines to some extent how they live and express their life. If they believe that there is a divine principle or individual, depending on how they understand it, will also determine to a certain extent, maybe even a great extent, how they not only experience life, but how they express their life. And so we look at it as we are God expressing as us individually. It doesn't mean that we're saying that we are God. We're just saying that God expresses as all of creation, and we happen to be a part of it. But in that expressing, there are capabilities and possibilities that are available to us that we either don't know that are there, or we maybe knew at one time and we've either buried them in our consciousness or our memory. Through all the no's and all the negativity, and if you add to that all the incredible negativity that we see out in the world today, it's pretty easy to understand how one can look at life and feel that life is a struggle, that life is full of limitation, that life is full of chaos and various sundry of other things that are of a less than positive nature. And if you look at it from that aspect and then you ask yourself, well, if life is God expressing, what's going on? And the truth is that God does express as each and every one of us, but we can only express God at the level that we understand and know within ourselves exactly what that is. We have the capability to express life at any particular level that we choose to express life. That's a pretty big statement, but it's also a very true statement. There's many books that have been written that are non-spiritual, talking about the power of positive consciousness, the power of a positive mind, having a right kind of attitude in creating friends and so on and so forth. And there's been many, many years of experience of people putting those principles into practice in their life and benefiting from it, regardless of what their personal spiritual belief is. So in New Thought, Science of Mind and Spirit, we look at our foundation to begin with that, okay, we start here, and we are God expressed as us. So Sunday at the Spiritual Awareness Center, that's the premise that we start with. And once we address that, then we see what that means for us. And it means so much in so many different ways, but we have a power, each and every one of us, and that power is the power of choice. And actually, in reality, we express that power almost continually all day long. We're just not aware of it. Another study says that we think somewhere between 60 to 90,000 thoughts a day. But 90% of those thoughts that we think, we don't think consciously. What does that mean if we don't think consciously? There is a stream of consciousness, a stream of understanding that we have within us that is seated within what we call the subjective mind, which is just one part of the greater mind that we access, that we are, if you will. But it's always ongoing. And it's at that level in the subconscious mind, it's where we hold our beliefs. And so when we come across a situation that maybe it triggers us, and we have a reaction before we can even begin to think about that reaction, what it's going to be, we have it and we experience it. Sometimes it's positive, but sometimes it's not positive. Sometimes it doesn't affect us or our life experience, and sometimes it has a very negative or debilitating experience expressing in our life. And we say, well, we couldn't do anything. I mean, it just happened. We just reacted. And the truth is that we don't have to react and respond in the way we do. We may still be triggered by various things in our life experience, but how we respond to those versus how we react to them is solely within our power once we learn that, one, it's in our power, and two, there's a way for us to change that so that as we experience things in our life, we have the power to choose how we're going to experience them, which means ultimately we have the power to experience life at the level of joy and harmony and happiness that we choose to. But we got to know it first. And once we know it, then we got to know how to get there. And that's what we teach at the Spiritual Awareness Center. We're going to cut away to our first break, and I'll pick this up when we come back. See you then.
Discover retirement living the way it's meant to be and live your golden years to the fullest with Rose Meadow Manor. Rose Meadow Manor offers assisted living, memory, respite, and hospice care. To learn more, call 559-840-1991 and visit rosemeadowmanor.com. Lease or buy this modern two-story Spanish-style building with private offices, open workspace, 2 restrooms, and a break room. This commercial office building is located at 10 East Olive in the Tower District. The floor plan is designed for easy conversion, and all interior walls are movable. Parking available in the rear in a fence-secure lot. Call Mike Briggs Properties at 559-486-6758 or visit MikeBriggsProperties.com. The Saga of Bridget and Amanda by Carol Love Forbes brings to life the struggles of historical women in early America. Find The Saga of Bridget and Amanda on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and order your copy today. The Islamic Cultural Center of Fresno invites you to the 7th Annual Bazaar, Saturday, April 7th from noon to 7 p.m. Come join in on a day of family fun featuring international goods vendors, delicious international food, henna art and face painting, camel and pony rides, a full petting zoo, and more.
CentralValleyTalk.com.
Welcome back to New Thought Talk. I am your host, the Reverend Steve Walling from the Spiritual Awareness Center, located in Fresno. As we were going to the break, and I was talking about that we have this power within us, this power of choice to determine how we experience life. On the face of it, that may not seem that astounding or that magnanimous, but once we begin to understand and, if you want, drill down on it, get to the details, it's really an extremely incredible thing and an incredible power that each and every one of us express in our life. But our physical being, this body that we have, it was designed, and we're still trying to learn and understand how this design is. And you can decide that it was designed by evolution, or you can choose to decide that it was that it was designed by some spiritual being or happenstance, whatever. But what we do know about it is that there is a part of us which everything that we experience in life is filtered through. And there's been many different names given for this, fear mechanism, flight or fight mechanism, many other things, but it comes down to this, that what we experience through our five senses goes through this, and what we can call this is our body protection mechanism. And it judges and evaluates everything that we come into contact, we see, we hear, or oftentimes even what we think about. And then before we even have the conscious awareness of what's going on, it determines a body response, which worked fine when we were not thinking beings, when we lived in an environment that was basically all physical, that we had to struggle to survive 24/7, basically. But as humanity became aware of itself, and what we like to say, when we hit that I am moment, that moment of personal consciousness, things shifted for us. We were no longer subject to evolution, that we could make choices, that we could look at something and maybe the initial response might have been that is something that we should fear, but we may decide that that's something that could actually support us. And one of those things early on was something called fire. And of course, fire became, once we harnessed it, a very powerful tool in the creation of civilization. But we had to get over our fear of fire. Works that way today in this life, because although we have, obviously, society's changed and grown and advanced in so many ways, our basic physiology and biology has not. It's stayed pretty much the same. So what we do is still evaluate everything on a subconscious level that we experience in life before we make a conscious thought about it. That worked fine, like I say, back in the day, but in today's world, where there's so much going on, and where so much of what's going on actually goes on between our ears because we're thinking about things in the future, what's going to happen, maybe jobs, responsibilities, so on and so forth. And if we allow this mechanism within our brain to basically make the choices for us, it's always going to be from a fear-based understanding, something we call fear. Now, it used to be years ago that we believed that humans were born into the world with only two basic fears, and that was the fear of falling and the fear of loud noises, and that every other fear was subsequently learned. Today we know that that's not true, that we are hardwired for fear. And being hardwired for fear means, again, everything that comes into us through our five senses is judged through this fear mechanism. But we can overcome it. And this is one of the exciting things that back in the early days of science, mind, and spirit and New Thought, they had a belief that we could change our thinking and it would change our life experience. But today, science is telling us that this belief is actually something that can be demonstrated in a functional reality. And the neuroanatomists, they call this neuroplasticity. And what that means is that we can actually rewire how the brain circuits go, how the inputs go and where they go and how our response is. And this is the basic understanding that when we begin to see life through the eyes that expect to see good, and the key word there is expect, to see good in all things, regardless of how traumatic the things may be, there's still maybe a lesson, there may be something there, there's some good there to be taken in or to realized, even through tragedy, and that doesn't deny the tragedy, but there still is, if we have that expectation, we begin to rewire our brain. We rewire our brain such that it looks for the good in every situation. And then what happens is that the mind begins to seek out things that otherwise we may not have paid attention to. Things that happen in our lives or experiences or something that we see that normally would just be passed through, not raised to a level of consciousness, all of a sudden it becomes something that we're consciously aware of. There's lots of things that people have written about this kind of concept. They talk about the law of attraction and the law of cause and effect. And those are things that we've talked about in the past. And there's power there. Excuse me. There's power there for sure. But it starts with a basic personal understanding that the life experience was a gift to us from a divine principle, from God, from the source of all that is. But God was not a giver that gave with limitation. God provided us, we believe, with everything we need to express life and to express life abundantly. That means that we each came into this life with value, that there is no being that is valueless, or there is no being that is of a lesser value. Although we do see that in our life experience, it's amazing how people, once they begin to realize that although we may be created equally, we're not necessarily born in equality, but yet there is that which exists within us that can lift us up from anything that we have started out with in our life. We see, and it's not uncommon, although unfortunately it's not the rule of thumb, we see people that have come out of life experiences that are extremely dark or tragic to transcend and to triumph over that darkness and that tragedy and become a gift to the world on so many different levels. People that, and they realize that they have this ability, and oftentimes those are people that will take the time as they have pulled themselves up, they'll reach down and they'll pull somebody else up. And if we continue to do that, and that's one of the tenets of what we teach and believe, that for each of us that rise up, we pull somebody else up with us. There is a power and a presence for good in the universe that we believe is available to anybody that is open to that power. And it's not to be found outside of ourselves, but it's to be found within. You know, again, this goes to the understanding that if we are God expressing as us, that there is that within us which is the divine principle. We can call it life or call it many other things, but it's there, and it's awaiting our discovery of it within us. As we do that, that begins our spiritual path as we understand it. And that path is a journey. It is a doingness. That doesn't mean that it doesn't have meaning. It doesn't mean that it's not associated with feelings. And it doesn't mean that we don't have a level, if you will, of what you might want to call worship. But what it does mean is, in order for us to expand individually, we have to take action upon what we have here as the basic material. If we start with the understanding that every individual that God has created has greatness within it, because God is within it, then the potential of greatness is there for everybody. But we have to, one, begin to look for it for ourselves, within ourselves, and two, then we start our journey. And at the Spiritual Awareness Center, we teach many of the tools that one can use to facilitate this journey. Tools such as simply as using affirmations or taking time to focus the mind during the day. There are certain times of the day that if you take the time, and again, this is not a spiritual thing, this is something that is utilized in many different walks of life, but it's very powerful, a very true tool, that if you take certain times of the day and you focus your mind on the good that you want to see in your life, or the expectation of good that you have an expectation to see, that your whole outlook on life on that particular day and one day to the next changes. And it changes personality types. It heals people that have dealt with various types of diseases and illnesses within themselves, some physiological, some psychological. These are powerful tools, and we can, each and every one of us, utilize them. But if we don't know they're there, if we don't know that we have access to them, it's like having an automobile sitting out in the driveway that has everything it needs to take us where we want to go, but we don't realize that we've got to go get the key, put it in the ignition, turn it on, and then put it in gear in order to get there. We just see it there as a potential to take us wherever we want to go, but it's our responsibility to get the key, to put it in, to start the vehicle, to move forward. this is the gift that God has given us in our life, in this life expression, that the potential for all goodness and all greatness for each and every one of us is there, but we have to get the key, and we have to take responsibility. And it is my belief that ultimately that is our life's purpose, and we all ultimately will end up doing that at some point. But wouldn't it be nice as individuals to do it sooner than later? Wouldn't it be nice to begin our lives with this outlet? And so as people come to the Spiritual Awareness Center or other New Thought Religious Science churches or centers, they begin to learn these tools. And I've known many people that have come and taken and learned the tools, put them into practice, and they've gone back to their previous homes of worship, and they're very happy and very comfortable there. This is not a you've got to believe what we tell you about God and your position in the universe in order to experience the goodness that you can experience from the tools that we teach. But it is something that tells you that if you want to experience the goodness that is available to you, you have to put the tools into practice. And that's what we teach. And it's amazing what happens, the lives that are changed. I'm going to take my next break, and then I'll pick this up. We'll talk about tools and talk about time together when we come back.
Let Senior Care Authority help you make the right choices for your loved one. Senior Care Authority will meet with you and provide guidance to help you find the best independent living, assisted living, or memory care, offering 6-bed home or large community. Senior Care Authority will help you navigate a complex healthcare system and ensure you get the proper care for your loved one, and the service is free. Visit seniorcare-fresno.com or call 559-900-2076.
I'm Greg Steen, your host for the Truth for Seniors show. Glad you're joining us today and coming to you from Central Valley Talk in the heart of Fresno. So every Wednesday at 2 you can find us, and we'll be here giving you the most up-to-date and accurate information possible, bringing you experts, as we promised, from lots of different fields related to seniors, senior needs, caregiver needs, and everything that goes with that. So if you're looking for the right information and timely information, this is the place to be.
Voir dire, An Oath to Tell and Seek the Truth by Santiago Camarena, depicts the vicious cycle of drugs, crime, and incarceration. It argues that the media, politics, and our laws systematically contribute to this cycle. Get your copy of Voir dire at voirdirestory.com. When you need a dentist who has a passion for superior aesthetics and comfort, you need Dr. Christopher Wong with Cedar North Dental. Call 559-432-4948 or visit cedarnorthdental.com. Fresno Rescue Mission's Rescue the Children program is a protected, secure environment providing emergency and long-term services to women at risk, abused, homeless, previously incarcerated, and women with children. The community provides women and their children a place to get away from destructive lifestyles, offering a place to heal, learn, and grow. Give to the Fresno Rescue Mission today. Connect with Dr. Alan Hedberg. Watch Doctor Teach Me to Parent on CentralValleyTalk.com Saturdays at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Listen to The Psychology Report anytime at thepsychologyreport.buzzsprout.com. Visit booksbyhedberg.com and order a book for your personal growth. And join the conversation on twitter.com/Alan G. Hedberg.
CentralValleyTalk.com.
Welcome back. It's New Thought Talk. I am your host, Reverend Steve Walling from the Spiritual Awareness Center located here in Fresno. And I was talking about tools that we use, and understand that when we use any kind of tool, using a tool is a skill of sorts, and so are the spiritual tools that we use. If you are working with affirmations, for example, and you write them down and you read them once in a while, they're probably not going to do you much good. If you read them every day or multiple times a day, you set up a schedule around reading them, they're probably going to have a greater benefit. But if you don't, when you're reading them, really try to connect with what it is the affirmations are saying, you're still not going to experience the greater good that you could get from affirmations. We know scientifically that when people repeat affirmations continuously, every day, on a regular basis, and multiple times, and they connect with the words that they're speaking in these affirmations, that it begins again to make changes within the mind, and it changes mindsets. So the idea of being able to change your thinking as just something that you can do at the snap of a finger is not going to happen. You think what you think habitually, and that's been our life experience. This is why when the individuals that began looking at this spiritual understanding that we call New Thought, they named various New Thought teachings they utilized the word science in it. The idea is that there are science-based tools that we can use in our spiritual journey that can allow us and help us to achieve a greater life experience, a more harmonious life experience. So in utilizing affirmations, we do them every day. We talk about them, we teach about it at the Spiritual Awareness Center, and we see changes that begin to take place in the thinking habits that we have. So we do change our thinking. There's another area that is very commonly addressed within New Thought and in Science of Mind and Spirit particularly, and that's it's that inner dialogue, and I talked a little bit about it earlier, but we carry this inner dialogue, and a lot of it is subconscious. We don't pay much attention to it. We know it's there, and we know it has a great effect on our life experience. But think for a minute about the thoughts that you do think about during the day. Are those thoughts harmonious thoughts? What I'll use the phrase, are they in alignment with divine principle? And what I mean by that is, if we understand God to be a loving God, or God of love, or God is love, and however we want to address that issue from our various spiritual backgrounds, if we associate God and love in the same thought, then when we begin to think about how we're thinking, are we thinking thoughts that promote a consciousness within ourselves of a lovingness? And that doesn't mean, being unconsciously just in an unconscious experience of, oh gee, everything's love and isn't this wonderful. It's not what we're talking about. It's understanding that if God has created all that is, then everything is some part of God, and therefore some part of this loving experience, even if we don't understand why this particular or that particular experience doesn't seem so loving, if you will. If we go back to the master teacher, and one of the things that he taught when he was walking the face of the earth, he said that we are to love God with all that we are. Well, if God is everything, that means we love everything with all that we are. And of course, that also includes ourselves. And so oftentimes one of the first people for us to criticize happens to be ourselves, isn't it? But we got to put that away. That's a habit that we learned growing up. Remember all those no's? Well, accompanying those no's were a lot of other negative thoughts that went with them, and somehow many people have managed to incorporate that within their own self-definition. We've got to let that go. If we understand that we are a demonstration of God's creativeness, what's not to love? What's not to be open to experiencing at a much higher level for all of us, really, than what we have? We can expect more. We can see a more positive mindset, outlook in our life experience. But if we don't bring ourselves to that point in consciousness, chances are we're not going to experience it. But the other part of what the teacher taught at that time is that we love our neighbor as we love ourselves. That's a big elephant in the room that most people seemingly want to sidestep, but it's huge. We cannot go through life and hold, whether you want to call it hate or anger, you can call it fear, judgment. There's many different names that we have for our opinions of others, whoever the others may be. whether it be in the neighborhood or in the family, in the town, the state, the country, other countries, whether it be political or spiritual, in all aspects of our life. We get caught up in this idea that, okay, we're good, but I'm okay, but we have to drop the but. We have to let it go. And that doesn't mean that we necessarily have to acquiesce to people that bring what we'll call negative things into our life experience, but we can love them and put up our barriers. We can promote what it is that we believe in a loving way. We can do so without hatred. We can have that communications. We can have that dialogue, and we can present our case, our side, whatever. We do so without judging the other individual, and maybe at the end of the discourse, maybe some minds are changed, maybe they're not. But they're never going to be changed if you come at someone as an adversary. Adversaries, the old saying is, a man changed against his will remains unchanged still, is as true now as it was when it was first uttered. We cannot do that. And all you have to do is look at the evening news or the late night news or the early morning news or the midday news or the news at any other time. It's full of people doing exactly that. Now, I do believe and I teach that we can change the world. We can literally change the world. But we don't change the world by going out and telling other people how to, what to, their have-tos. We do it by changing ourselves. And when we change ourselves, we change how we think. We change our life experience. And it's an amazing thing as we do that. Not only do we begin to experience life at a much greater level of abundance, of love and goodness, and oftentimes health and prosperity and many other things, people around us, they take notice. They begin to see that, there's something going on. And oftentimes someone that may have been surly or antagonistic, they soften up, and maybe even they begin to take time. As you treat people, they will treat you in the same manner. And it's coming to a point of understanding that we have that within ourselves to change how we interact with the world, and the world will change. If you're at a job that's full of stress, start seeing that job as a gift. This is an interesting concept. You have a job that fills you with stress. Oftentimes we will think of this job as, if only we didn't have, if we only had something else, we could be happy, we could be fulfilled, we could be whatever. And there is probably a certain level of truth in that, no doubt. But if we see this job, whatever the job is, or the relationship, as stressful, as creating stress, as something that's got to be fought, that's the energy we bring to it, that's the mindset we bring to it, and we create more of that to deal with. If we embrace it, even if there are timelines, even if there are issues that have to be resolved and solved, we can see, when we can see a greater good at the end result, we can begin to deal with the stresses in a constructive way, because we can still deal with stress, but we can deal with it in a constructive manner. And as we do, not only do we transcend the situation, but things around us begin to transcend the situation also. And we attract better things into our life to experience. And sometimes that may be moving on to a different job. Sometimes it may be a promotion within the organization, or if it's a relationship, maybe the long-standing issues of the relationship all of a sudden no longer seem important to be issues, and they can melt away, and a furtherance of a building of a stronger, more powerful, more positive relationship can result. But all that power lies within us. And it's not for us to go to other people and tell them that they have to change. Because as we do, the first thing that's going to happen is they're going to resist. No one likes to be told what to do. There's a reason why. And so in New Thought, in religious science, we look at these issues that we have in life, and we see how we can be empowered to not only resolve those issues in our personal life, but to transcend them in such a way and manner that we bring peace and harmony and love and beauty into our life experience, that we can see that life has a greater abundance available to us when we open ourselves up to be available to that greater abundance. But again, that's all personal choice. The other thing that coming to, whether it be the Spiritual Awareness Center or any other center or any church for that matter, it brings like-minded people together. And we don't realize how important that is, but it's extremely important. When you get together for your Sunday celebration or your Sunday experience, if you do participate in that, or on a Saturday or Friday or whatever day of the week that you happen to personally participate in that, it brings you into contact with spiritually like-minded people. And not only is that supportive and nurturing, but there's a spiritual familyness that you begin to experience. One of my mentors many years ago, when I was first studying New Thought, religious science, told me that there are other spiritual philosophies that have various, and he used the word hook to pull people to come in for their Sunday experience. And he says we don't have that in New Thought. People only show up because they want to, and you can't build that want into anybody. It's something that they have to develop for themselves. And it's amazing how when people begin to realize the benefits of taking time and making themselves important on the Sundays or the Saturdays or the Fridays, whenever it is, to participate in spiritual activities that they are affiliated with, how impactful that is on their life. About time now, it looks like, for my third and final break. So I'm going to go ahead and take a break, and I'll see you when we come back.
The Islamic Cultural Center of Fresno invites you to the 7th Annual Bazaar, Saturday, April 7th from noon to 7 p.m. Come join in on a day of family fun featuring international goods vendors, delicious international food, henna art and face painting, camel and pony rides, a full petting zoo, and more. When you experience flooding in your home, you need to call Clean Master Emergency Flood Service at 559-454-0655. After soaking in water for only 45 minutes, carpet starts to come apart. Clean Master Emergency Flood Service can help, and not just with carpet repair. They also offer carpet cleaning, upholstery cleaning, carpet installation, and more. Call Clean Master Emergency Flood Service, and they'll be there in 60 minutes. Call 559-454-0655.
Learned a lot, and got a lot of love. If it weren't for the knowledge that I had gained from the classes at PCC, I probably wouldn't be the mom I am today. See, there it goes.
I would love you to meet my son, Aaron. My situation was very difficult. I didn't know how my life was going to turn out.
We graduated in June 2010, and we got married in July. And through family, the Pregnancy Care Center changed our lives.
The Pregnancy Care Center was a huge, vital part in helping me walk through that pregnancy, in educating me and loving on me during that time.
Build the Reedley College Center for Fine and Performing Arts by making a donation at scccd.edu/donate.
This segment is brought to you by Mike Briggs Properties. The recession's over. It's now safe to sell your home. Call Mike Briggs Properties.
CentralValleyTalk.com.
Welcome back to New Thought Talk. I'm your host, the Reverend Steve Walling from the Spiritual Awareness Center in Fresno. And I've been talking about the center and about New Thought today. And in this final segment, I want to share with you, if, as many people notice sometimes, that whether they've been in a spiritual life expression or whether they've never had any experience with a spiritual life expression, you feel that thought within, maybe an urge, a sense that maybe there's more to life than what it is that you've experienced. Maybe there's more that you can do to experience life at a greater level. I'd like to encourage you to come out sometime on Sunday to the Spiritual Awareness Center or any of the other New Thought centers that happen to be located here in Fresno, if that's where you happen to be. You'll find a very welcoming community of individuals, but more than that, you'll find access to very powerful tools that you can use to create your life, and I mean that, for you to create your life at a much higher level than what you're experiencing presently, whether that be in health or relationship or finances or self-expression or many other different areas. We were created in greatness by an infinite goodness, and it's only when we begin to have some kind of a realization of what that truly means for us as individuals can we begin to partake in that. And that's what Science of Mind and Spirit offers to people. And like I say, if you have a particular philosophy that you grew up with, you don't have to leave or give up, your beliefs about that. You may find that there are spiritual tools that you can use that Science of Mind and Spirit or New Thought teaches that you can incorporate and return to your spiritual home and continue to express your spirituality in that way. It's not that important to me, where you go to express yourself as it is that you do, because we're spiritual beings. I mean, we weren't created out of a factory. We were created by that which we call God. And, again, God is spirit, and we must recognize that from spirit all things are made, and with God all things are possible. And I do believe that with God all things are possible, which means there's no issue in your life, no matter how big it might be, that God is not bigger than. What a concept. Facing life issues, knowing that you have a co-pilot, a partner with you that is much bigger, much more powerful than anything that you can express or run into in your life experience. Pretty good, I think. At least that's what I believe, and that's what I share. So if you happen to be around, come on out on Sunday. We're at 1470 North Van Ness. We meet at the Fresno Soap Company Theater up there. It's a nice, intimate little place. We have time before and after for fellowship, and we have a little bit of music to offset the teaching as we go through the lesson on Sunday. But bring your questions if you've never experienced it before. We're always happy. I'm always happy to answer questions. Bring your issues in your life. If you have an issue, one of the things that I believe very strongly in is that the divine principle, God does answer prayer. And we do prayer. We do what we call affirmative prayer treatment. It's a form of spiritual prayer for healing and greater good in our life. And it's amazing how it unfolds in people's lives. And it's up to you, though, to show up, to ask the questions, to be there. And if not, you can find us. We have a Facebook page for Spiritual Awareness Center. Steve Walling is my personal page, and you can always reach me through there. Our webpage it's in the process of being renewed. We've got a new web whatever that puts this stuff together, and so it's in the process of coming out. But in the meantime, you can always reach us through our Facebook accounts. And also the account for this particular show is New Thought Talk with Rev Steve. And we archive a lot of our shows there, and from there you can go to YouTube and you can find the shows that are archived there, and maybe answer some of your questions before you even come in the door, or maybe raise questions that you may want to ask once you come in the door. It's been a pleasure and a joy for me to do this and to watch changes take place in people's lives, to see them express life more abundantly and in a greater way and in greater harmony and joy and the good that they've had. And then seeing that they know that they are a participant. All things do come from God or divine principle. There's no doubt about that, because we all live, breathe, and move within that beingness that we call God. But we can be directive, if you will, as to how that happens. And that is, I think, the great mystery that God has given us to uncover for ourselves and individually. You know, it's not something that somebody can do for you. People cannot be spiritual for you. They cannot do for you in a spiritual way, and they can't teach you the goodness of spirituality without you participating. And that's why I say spirituality is not a noun, it's a verb. And in being a verb, it's really more of a skill. And it's a skill that we can practice. And the more we practice, the greater we practice, the more intimate we become within ourselves with that connectedness and the divine principle, and the greater good that we see flowing into our lives and experiencing and demonstrating. And it's been, like I say, it's been worthwhile for me to do that. I've had the opportunity to travel a little bit and to connect with people. But, you know, greatness is here, right here, wherever right here is for you. Greatness is here. God created you to experience greatness. Your journey is to discover the greatness that is within you and to express it and bring it into life. And you know, if each and every one of us take that time and express that good and bring it into our lives, imagine how our lives change, but imagine how the world changes around us. You know, that chaos you see on the news. Ernest Holmes said, I believe it was in the late 1930s, that he did believe that was the time for the message that we have brought to the world. And I don't think he was wrong, but I don't think the world got it. You know, we've seen a lot of chaos and a lot of destruction and a lot of anger and hatred over the years. But if you sit back and you look at the totality, even though it seems like we're right in the middle of a lot of very unsettling things in this present time, in so many ways the world and humanity has made vast improvements. And it's made these improvements by people that have chosen to see a greater good, create a greater good, and be a greater good in life. And there's nothing special about any one of those individuals. You may know them by name, you may not know them, but experience the good that they brought into the world. But every one of them was just like us, you, me. They were people that realized that there's a greater good, there's a greater life that they can bring within themselves, and in so doing, they share that with the world. And that's the power that's within you. There's a power and a presence for good in the universe that's available to you. And it's available to you in a way that only you can utilize it. How exciting is that? How wonderful is that? It brings so much good in so many ways. So, this Sunday, think about what you're doing. Maybe at 10 o'clock you'd like to show up at the Spiritual Awareness Center or one of the other centers here in Fresno or wherever you happen to be. You can find them online, Centers for Spiritual Living, Unity, many other names. You can always email me. I get people that seek information about where they can go to find that place for them, where they can experience that, because being online, this show seems to get out to a lot greater audience than just the local Fresno audience here, which is, I appreciate that. It's good, and you can always just check in and let me know that you've seen the show and what you think, and if you have questions about other things you'd like to know about. I'm always happy to answer questions and maybe even create a whole show around a particular question that I've been asked, and I have done that in the past. So, you can be a greater power for good for everybody just by taking that activity in your own life. Thank you for being with us today, and I look forward to seeing you. I'll be back next week, and we'll pick it up. I'm not sure where we're going to go at this point. We'll be talking about a topic in particular, I'm sure. I may even start a book study. I don't know. It's maybe about time to do that, and because we've changed the format a little bit, I have the availability and the opportunity to do that. So I will see you when we come back. But But know through the week that the light of God surrounds you, and the love of God enfolds you. The power of God protects you, and the presence of God watches over you. Because truly, wherever you are, God is there, and all is well. See you next week. Take care. Blessings. Bye.
Discover retirement living the way it's meant to be and live your golden years to the fullest with Rose Meadow Manor. Rose Meadow Manor offers assisted living, memory, respite, and hospice care. To learn more, call 559-840-1991 and visit rosemeadowmanor.com. Lease or buy this modern two-story Spanish-style building with private offices, open workspace, 2 restrooms, and a break room. This commercial office building is located at 10 East Olive in the Tower District. The floor plan is designed for easy conversion, and all interior walls are movable. Parking available in the rear in a fence-secure lot. Call Mike Briggs Properties at 559-486-6758 or visit MikeBriggsProperties.com. The Saga of Bridget and Amanda by Carol Love Forbes brings to life the struggles of historical women in early America. Find The Saga of Bridget and Amanda on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and order your copy today. The Islamic Cultural Center of Fresno invites you to the 7th Annual Bazaar, Saturday, April 7th from noon to 7 p.m. Come join in on a day of family fun featuring international goods vendors, delicious international food, henna art and face painting, camel and pony rides, a full petting zoo, and more.
CentralValleyTalk.com